Reflecting on my journey as an artist, I'm reminded of the profound impact ancient Egyptian mythology has had on my work. Take the lotus bloom, for instance. This stunning bloom closes its petals at night and sinks underwater, only to rise again at dawn and bloom when touched by light. To the Egyptians, the lotus represented the sun, an image of creation and rebirth. I find it fascinating how I resonated with this symbol, especially on my journey of self discovery. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a 21-year-old artist, and this is Mark's Place. During my teenage years, using symbols in art would have been a big no go. The self study I had to endure during my teenage years was filled with the teachings of keeping things as naturalistic as possible. Of course, this was intentional, seeing that I wanted to improve my skill set and become really good at drawing. As my skills grew, I wanted to explore symbolism. It struck me with such a sense of freedom when I found or figured out that I could say so much with such little mark making. The contrast between the heavily realistic drawings and the simplicity of the symbols was exactly the edge my art needed. My project Symptoms of Duality is an exploration into symbolism through art, focusing on the concept of duality. Yes, very, very dramatic. The thing is, I've always been drawn to the interconnectedness between opposites, or the idea of non-duality, um, like the lotus flower, an image simultaneously an expression of creation and rebirth. As I delved deeper into this mythology, I came across the scarab dung beetle. The scarab beetle rolls dung into a bowl and buries it in the sand. This was actually a pillar in Egyptian mythology, or is known to be a pillar in Egyptian mythology. The scarab deity, the god Khepri, actually symbolizing rebirth and renewal, a recurring theme in my work, it seems. But the thing is, I loved the idea that this small creature with such a singular purpose inspired such greatness in the minds of the ancient Egyptians. The Ankh, another symbol that captivated me, symbolizing life and death, chaos and order, its shape alluding to the connection between heaven and earth. By this time, I was on a roll. I wanted to do more research and find this thing we call duality within these different cultures, sort of like connecting the dots that would make these three separate artworks whole, sort of like collecting artifacts for this picture I was making. Doing this type of research, some would call it secondary research. It's it's amazing. It feels like I'm time traveling, and at the same time, I'm running around the world right from home. Finding these clues is so fun. The previous piece touched on the yin yang symbol, um, which is more akin to Taoism, but finding these parallel truths sort of informs the feeling that inspired this project in the first place. Because when I started this project, I was only beginning to recognize these patterns within myself. You know, physically we have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, or the right hand and the left hand, etc. I was beginning to notice this pattern within my ideas and my thoughts. And to some, this wouldn't seem like a big or a significant realization, but I didn't approach this concept or this idea with the aim to acquire more, to find out something new, or acquire or further my intellect. No, 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 no. I was already deeply aware of the concept of duality, having read the Tao Te Ching, having read Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, a book heavily related in art and drawing, and but also having influences from Zen Buddhism, Taoism, having influenced Zen Buddhism. What I'm trying to say is, at the time, I didn't come to class with a blank slate, but I was exploring these ideas and these symbols not from a logical space, not from a logical place, from a place of intellect and um, what I've learned. I wanted to delve into it intuitively because I was making art. It wasn't, yeah, I was making art, and all my art having being heavily influenced by emotions and convictions. And at the time, all I was feeling was the symptoms of duality. Pun, wholeheartedly intended. Intended. The circle dot, a symbol for the sun, the Latin definition for sun being soul. Um, the title of this also being the logo for the American retailing company Target. Also, the symbol used on the the Creative Act, the book by Rick Rubin. Um, and I promise I only noticed afterwards, or actually during this project, I was reading that book for that for that artwork, and then as I was halfway through, and I was already halfway through this artwork, I noticed that the symbol on the book is the same symbol that I was using in the drawing, and I thought found that really interesting. Anyways, one of these sun gods being the Egyptian god Ra. He is often credited as the creator, and from his eternal light sprung forth all the other Egyptian gods. Ra is usually depicted with a red disc above his head, and I'm mentioning all these things so that you and I both can sort of look at these patterns and find the symptoms of duality. Because the thing is, these videos that I'm making, they aren't here to explain away the artworks themselves. It's more like an expansion, an exploration into this idea I had, and these symbols are sort of the keys I'm using to keep that conversation going. So, for those of you who look to these artworks and notice these symbols, and you have entirely subjective experiences, maybe you find entirely different meanings in these artworks, whether that be for better or for worse, I'd like to encourage you to have some grace. These symbols or the art, it's merely a reflection of your level of awareness. These symbols are passed down from generation to generation. They are ancient. They might have had different meanings at different times, and they might unfold to have different meanings for you or future me. Hi, so this is editing Mark. Hi. So as I was editing this video, I noticed that not in any of my videos have I actually mentioned how I make these artworks. So what I do is they're all handmade on uh, I sketch them out on paper, and then I work with charcoal and graphite, as well as with colored pencil and acrylic. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there in case anyone was wondering. These symbols and everything else needed guided me on the journey to the completion of Symptoms of Duality Part 2. So, if you like this artwork, or if you'd like to own a print of this one or any of the others in my discography, you can check out um, the link in the description, which will guide you to my website, where you will find prints and essays and these videos. You can also find me on Instagram and on Substack. On Substack, I spill much more tea about my personal journey with these artworks. That said, as I look back on my journey, the creation of Symptoms of Duality was really a rebellion against the constraints of traditional art. At the same time, it was a homecoming to the artist within. Symptoms of Duality, Part 2. Soul. On a circled dot, the sun disk, sits a pantheress and a moth. The pantheress is alert, head raised, as she stares into the yin. The moth sits on the sun, following its divine purpose. That's it. Thanks for having me. See you in part 3 of Symptoms of Duality.